You think she does this?
टाइम हो गया है
थोड़ा पॉज नहीं कर सकते हैं ना स्टार्ट होने तक
नहीं लाइव में कुछ नहीं
अच्छा
टाइम हो गया है
थोड़ा पॉज नहीं कर सकते हैं ना स्टार्ट होने तक
नहीं लाइव में कुछ नहीं
अच्छा
टाइम हो गया है
थोड़ा पॉज स्टार्ट होने तक
लाइव में भी
Welcome you to the Viva University. Welcome to the Viva University. Good evening for our Viva University. Good evening for our So we are honored to welcome our external guest, Dr. Professor Ranjan Kumar Bal, sir, former Vice Chancellor, ASBM University, who has come all the way from Bhubaneswar and joined us physically. We welcome you, sir. We also have our another external examiner, Dr. Richard Chaudhary, ma'am, from IIT Patna. We welcome you as well, ma'am, and ma'am, we are very sorry for the delay. With your permission, we can, if you're allowed, we can ask the scholar to present the presentation, sir.
Yeah.
Can we go ahead?
Richa madam is
हाँ, Richa madam is right.
Madam, बोलो.
Richa ma'am, are we audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning to all the esteemed scientists present over here, especially to the external examiners, ma'am on the screen and sir present over here. A very good morning to the registrar sir, my research supervisor, Ph.D. coordinator, ma'am, and Dr. Rajkumar, and all those who have joined me for this day. Thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to present my research on factors influencing the selection of private universities for undergraduate manual education in Jharkhand. My journey so far has been I registered the topic in November 2022, skill development took place in 2023. Pilot study was conducted in October 2023, main server in December 2024. Analysis and writing took about 6-7 months, and that was in August 2025. I had my pre-submission seminar in October 2025 and submitted the thesis based on the feedback given in the pre-submission seminar in December 2025. In May, June, I received the comments from the honorable external examiners. In June, I prepared this, revisited my thesis, and this is where I am at thesis defense right now. So this is the action taken report based on the comments received by the honorable external examiners. Three major things that that was there, that recent works have to be cited. So I incorporated especially the work based on digital influencer and AI personalized recruitment for basically done by Damor in 2024 and 2025. These are the recent works which have been incorporated and positioned accordingly. A unified conceptual model, it was there in the passages, but I constructed a unified model also, which I'll be presenting in this section also. And thesis needed to be condensed since chapters were prepared individually, so there were a lot of repetitions, which I have curtailed down and made it more concise. So this is the action taken report for the comments received on that. So I begin by the executive summary. This thesis primarily develops a manual institute choice scale. This is a prototype of scale rather, by 43 items and 7 factors. They explain how prospective manual students select private universities in Jharkhand. I have used systematic literature review, EFA and CFA, and then also supplemented with FGTs and PIs, and also text planning techniques to find out the extracted themes from the FGTs transcripts. The key findings are that academic quality and financial considerations are the dominant drivers. Decision making is not an individual decision, but a family mediated risk negotiation. And students use informal digital back channels to verify institutional claims. So this all started with the motivation that I myself am part of the private education institution. So I had this first-hand experience of that private universities, especially, depend heavily on the tuition fee and student enrollment for their survival and growth, and that is a perpetual problem across all the universities for that. So challenge of attracting more admission is really there year after year, and this has been exacerbated by the fact that many of the seats, not most, still remain vacant, and this is because of market saturation. This market saturation is a result of increasing competition. There are mushrooming of all private institutions across the country, and then students also have now more, more options to pick up studies. Generic BBA or MBA is no longer the only option available there. And economic conditions, they act as double-edged sword. They at one time affect the placement, which ultimately affects the admission. They also affect the paying capacity of the students, so that admissions again doubly affected by that. And then we have got this major technological advancements, especially in the form of MOOCs, where students get the management programs offered at cheaper rates and according to their own paces and all that. So all of this has led to market saturation. This has exacerbated this problem of attracting more and more admissions every year. So this translates into a managerial problem, two faces managerial problem for a private university. It becomes very important for the person to understand what are the factors which make it more desirable than the competitors. This is a marketing problem, and which factors should it focus on ultimately, so that to increase the number of admission. This is a sales problem. But before these questions could be answered, there are two more questions regarding the process and parameters. So how do students actually approach their decision making? That is a process problem. And what factors ultimately influence their choice? That is a parameters problem. So to understand this and to go deep into this, I conducted a broader literature survey. About 401 documents were consulted. Out of this, 268 are the research articles, 8 theses, 43 books, and about 22 reports. But more than that, I also conducted what we call a systematic literature review. As I said, this was conducted based on the PRISMA guidelines. And this was automated using the Java reference software with all the Boolean parameters paid into that, and that searched the Scopus and WS website. Out of 1359 search results, ultimately 53 studies were culled for deeper analysis. And that led to the categorization of the extant literature into three major divisions. One is perception studies. These were studies where the student has not yet made a choice. They were mostly concerned about how students perceive the need and value of higher education. That their typical focus was aspirations and attitudes toward management education, all that. Second set of studies were what we call choice studies. They were concerned about how students select a higher education institution. And therein, the most of the factors that ultimately formed part of the scale came from, like academic quality, cost, location, placements, and all that. Third category was relation studies, which was at the stage after the choice has already been made by students. It was more concerned about whether students realize the expected benefits which they started from. So employability, career progression, return on education principle, these were the main concerns of these kind of studies. So my study is located firmly within the choice studies category of institutions. And we are going to, how this actually connects with the criteria that students have with as a prior commission for doing this panel study. So the literature review came up with a few gaps. The prominent gap was that all of the factors that actually determine the or influence the decision to adopt the management education institution, they have been examined in literature, but they have very scattered out. There is no major study or which combines these factors together and talks them in a holistic manner. They are all scattered over the literature. Especially the psychological mechanisms such as motivation, affect, and perceived risk, they are not sufficiently theorized, not sufficiently integrated in any of the models. And though there is, except for one study which is done in Australia, there is no longitudinal study which actually connects whether the perceived benefits actually been realized by the students. No such studies exist. And all of these models have very limited contextual grounding in the sense they do not explicitly take for account of the social economic milieu of the societies in which these studies have been performed. And especially the regional markets like Jharkhand and typical Bimaru states in India, they have been insufficiently studied. And finally, these studies have not yet woken up to the reality that after COVID-19, a lot of things have changed. Students have primarily moved on to the digital platforms, and this is where major marketing as well as verification of claims takes place. So these studies have not incorporated on all of these findings. So based on this, this is the overall conceptual model that I have developed, which starts with the perceived benefits of education. And once the students convinced that higher education is something that needs to be acquired. Then the next stage is the selection of the program, which particular program they need to select. Once that decision is made, let's say management education has been made, then the next biggest challenge is to select the proper college or institution they want to come into. And this is where my study focuses on. Once that part is over, they go into job selection and then realize benefits of education. This entire thing is analyzed through the license of three major theories and models. One is the signaling theory, which says that both employers and colleges, institutions, they emit signals which are captured by the student, based on which they decide which institutions to go take admission into and which jobs to take ultimately. And this signaling is now elaborated by elaboration likelihood model, which says that these signals emitted by the prospective colleges and employers, they are processed into a mainstream kind of signal and a peripheral signal. This is bifurcated into that. And finally, this goes into the theory of planned behavior. This leads to choice belief formation, which ultimately these signals are processed and lead to behavioral intention of college selection and going to that. So the middle portion is what my thesis is concerned about. The selection of college. I've used the term college itself because that is the majority term used in the literature, but it is mainly concerned with the private universities in Jharkhand. So these 7 factors are the factors that I came up with literature survey. So this is where the study is formally located in. Okay, so based on this, there are 2 research questions were formulated. One is to the decision-making process. How do prospective students actually approach this decision-making process? Second is what are the most influential or key factors that influence their decisions. And based on those research questions, I've developed certain objectives. The first objective is to actually to examine the decision-making process, how students actually go about doing this. Second is to develop and validate a measurement scale that identifies these key factors. Third one is to propose a robust factor structure that ensures the validity and reliability of the scale that is proposed to be developed. And fourth one is to analyze and assess the relative importance of these factors that come up with the scale. And finally, to provide a validated framework that will form a ground for institutional strategy making at the end. So this study is not based on formal testable hypothesis. Rather, this is a model building exercise, an exploratory one. That is why it is based on central proposition and guiding proposition. Central proposition is that the selection of a private management university in non-metro areas like Jharkhand is basically to be understood as an intergenerational investment under uncertainty. And the guiding proposition based on literature is that decision-making is primarily family-based rather than individual decision. Second, families often frame this decision-making process as return on investment rather than simple affordability. And finally, is that institution marketing narratives are misaligned with the decision-making priorities of students and parents. We'll see that. How does this all come up? So this was conducted in 3 major phases. Phase 1 was literature review, which narrative literature and SLA was done. Idea was to identify research gaps, extract the constructs and variables that influence students' choices. Phase 2 was scale development, where questionnaire was developed and it was ultimately understood as a pilot study. EFA was conducted on that and CFA on a larger sample. Phase 3 was to supplement this with FGDs and PIs with admission teams and students and alumni. And finally, the text mining techniques try to extract the themes from these transcripts of these FGDs and PIs. So phase 1 literature survey, systematic literature review, as I mentioned, it pulled up 53 studies to be studied intensively. This led to the identification of 30 variables and 7 latent construct, which we begin from in item construction. And the narrative literature review ultimately helped us to design the conceptual framework, which I presented earlier. In phase 2, we had this item pool development and ultimately the MIC scale. But before I begin this item pool development, I want to show the population size estimation because that was a real problem. There are no validated direct studies which give this population data. So it was estimated based on different reports. So ICA report of 2019-20 says that about 42,000 students studying in state patron cities in Jharkhand, but specific level of enrollment and specific courses are not mentioned there. So I had to make another assumption based on the same report that the bifurcation is about 80% in UG and 12% in PG. So based on that, UG students were about 34,393. And then GMAT report of 2021 says that of all entire India, of all the UG courses, about 15.8% students are in management courses. So assuming that same percentage to hold for Jharkhand also, again assumption, the current student strength comes to 5,435 students. And there were no estimates for alumni also. So looking at this fact that most of the Jharkhand universities, white universities established after 2016, the UG cohort would not have passed before 2019. So assuming that the constant rate of enrollment is there for these streams, then alumni amounts to about 32,610. But again, the bifurcation is that we want those alumni only who are into a job for at least a couple of years. So to establish this this percentage, we again look at the AICTE report of 2019, which says that about MBA graduates, about 36% were in the employability category. Assuming that same percentage to hold for UG students also, the alumni comes to 11,833. So the key figures are about 5,000 current students and about 12,000 alumni. So this is the key figure. Based on that, I tried to estimate the sample size required for this, and multiple ways I did that. For first was using the GPAR software, which uses exact multiple regression to give a sample size of about 208 cases. Then I use the wall methods, the traditional method of calculation for the population size of about 5,000 and 5% margin of error, 95% level of confidence. It comes to about 189 cases. But the main the main statistical tool that is used in this analysis is EFA and CFA, which can be thought of as errors in class variables of regression. And for that, the established guidelines say that about 5 to 20 times the number of observed variables, that should be the number of respondents. So the final questionnaire had 43 items. Based on that, any number between 250 to 860 would have been sufficient for this. So that was the sample size estimation. And then if you look at the structure of the universities, geographic distribution of universities in Jharkhand, we have about 21 universities in Jharkhand, but 3 of them are very recent. One of them will be starting this year only. So that were taken out. 3 of them do not run any management program, so that were also taken out. And one of them was stricken out by UGC. So ultimately, I left with only 14 private universities. Out of these 14 private universities, 8 are concentrated in Ranchi only. And the rest are in 2 contiguous regions. In southeast of Ranchi, we have got Jamshedpur and East Singhbhum area, where we have got 3 universities and 1 university each on the northern parts of Ranchi. So looking at this very concentrated geographic distribution of universities, I thought it wiser to do it a cluster-wise selection. So from the northern parts of Ranchi, I selected 1 university out of the 3, that is 1/3 of the sample. For the southern parts also, I selected 1 out of the 3. So I select from Hazaribagh and Arkajan from Saraikela, Kharsama, that is basically Jamshedpur, was selected. And out of the 8 universities that were in Ranchi, I selected 3 randomly, Usha Martins, Sarla Birla, and Jharkhand Rai universities. So this is the profile of those universities. None of them is NRF ranked. Jharkhand University is NAC grade C, Usha Martin A, Arkajan A, Sarla Birla and ISEC are not accredited in NAC. The oldest university is JRU and Usha Martin in this sample, which was established in 2012. All of them run similar programs, including the PhD programs in management also. The largest university in terms of current enrollment was 5185 Sarla University. This is 2324 figure. And the smallest one was the ISEC University, 1000. So now I come back to this scale development process. Before that, a couple of things. Pilot study was conducted specifically only on those students who had selected CUET management programs for Amity University. The reason for Amity University was that I was working at Amity University at that particular time, so I had easy access to this data set. Otherwise, it was very difficult to do that. So pilot study was conducted on this sample, and the main survey was conducted from these 5 universities that were selected, and it had about more than 1,000 students in the final sample. Okay, so I come back to the scale development process. This followed the process outlined by Netmer and Viva in 2017 and 2003 extended. So it followed 5 stages. Stage 1 was item generation. Stage 2 was content validity and cognitive pre-testing. Stage 3 was EFA on the pilot study. Stage 4 was CFA on the largest sample. And finally was validation. And if additional validation studies were required, I conducted also that. So stage 1, the SLR identified 30 variables and 7 higher order later constructs. This came through the literature review. And based on that, this is the table that relates to constructs, variables, and the source studies that I took it from. And based on that, item pool development took place. The initial pool had 72 items. More complex items were given additional items to, constructs were given additional items to justify that. And all of these items use consistent string format. For current students, I use how important were the following factors. For alumni, the questionnaire slightly changed. It was like when you were deciding what the management institute to attend. So that was the STEM format. all the items had 5-point importance scale. 1 was given to not at all important, 5 extremely important, and negatively worded items were consciously avoided doing that. So once that development happened, this is the summary of that. There were about 72, that's hidden over there. And for different constructs, there were different aspects. Academic quality being the most complex, it had 7 aspects with 33 items. And this was then refined through content validity by expert reviews. So I had a 7-member panel constructed, 2 marketing professors, especially focusing on consumer behavior, especially in education marketing, 2 psychometricians were used again from the same university for skill development, 1 student of on program leader for BBA program with extensive mission experience, and 2 recent BBA graduates were also there. That was a 7-member panel which looked into that. So this panel reviewed all the items and reported only 3-point scale: essential, useful but not essential, and not necessary. A content value ratio was calculated based on Loshet's formula that came about 0.75 cutoff, and the ultimate CVR ratio was 0.86, I think. And the result was that about 17 of those items were eliminated and 55 were left after this expert review and content validity. Then what followed was qualitative pre-testing. I had 15 participants. They were all BBA students, and they were individually interviewed. They were asked to read out these items aloud and then think about what they understand by this and how they're going to interpret these items. And then based on this, I made certain modifications also. But these interview transcripts were these interview transcripts were then recoded by, not recoded, I mean re-examined by 2 independent research assistants that I had over their university, and the intercoded reality was 0.89. So that resulted in about elimination of 2 items because they were persistently difficult to understand. 13 items were substantially revised to improve. Ambiguous terms were ultimately clarified, and the revised questionnaire was about 53 items. This was ready for pilot testing. So for pilot testing, as I mentioned earlier, I had CUT 2022-23 participants who had opted for BBA education, management education undergraduate, and taken MIT University as their option to pursue. I had this ready list of students with there. So pilot question was designed and it was emailed to the applicants in the form of a Microsoft form. There were 23 applicants were contacted, 269 responded, response rate 15.6%. And after that, we had 215 cases of final respondents of the pilot study. So this is the demographic profile of these pilot study participants. The majority of them were females, and majority of them were from commerce and economics background. General, about 50% belong to the general social category. Parents' occupation, majority of them were business and profession. And annual household income for most of them was above 8 lakh rupees per annum. So EFM was checked for its validity and sample adequacy and all that. That came out to 0.847. Barter's test gave us a chi-square value of 1177.9 and DF of 1378. Principal access factoring was used to extract the factors with obligatory rotation done in R Studio, that is R. And parallel analysis suggested 7 factors solution. 10 items with prime loadings above 0.5 and cross loading of below 0.30 were ultimately culled out from that. So that left us with 43 items, which yielded very cleanly, and they explained about 72.3% of the variance. So all of these factors exceeded the Cronbach alpha threshold of 0.70. The values range from 0.76 to 0.91. So this is the final structure of about 43 retained items. They explain about 72.3% of the variation in the response survey. So this is the sample of the survey instrument that was finally designed. This is for academic quality, how information of the following variables, and the factors are, all the lists are there. And the student had to rate on not at all important to extremely important, 1 to 5 scale. So the sampling frame for this final survey consisted of all first-year students of undergraduate management programs and all working alumni. These questionnaires were for current students were conducted in person, where I had already had a talk with the management of these particular universities, and they agreed to do it within a scheduled class time. So they were administered there. They had no prior idea what was being done. So the questionnaire was introduced then and there itself live. Consent was taken from them. And for alumni, I floated a Google form for the alumni survey. Before I go on to the main survey, let's talk about alumni survey. Despite assurances that these questions, these data will be shared with them live, in the sense that Google Sheet itself will be shared. Despite that, universities were very reluctant to share any alumni data. In fact, only one of the universities had a proper alumni association formed. And ultimately, only 2 provided alumni data. That was about 586 unique alumni email addresses. After 3 months of follow-up, I got only 29 responses. Therefore, I dropped CFA for the alumni. Alumni was ultimately studied only through FGDs, which was done later on. So coming back to the current students survey, 1070 first year BBA students were actually sampled. Out of that, 1069 fully completed questionnaires were received. This exceeded the minimum level of participants that was needed for that. This is the demographic profile of the main survey participants. This is now majority male with education background of commerce and economics, predominantly 67.5%. Social category was again predominantly general. Parents' occupation was business and profession, most of them. And annual household income now came to the majority for came to between 5 to 8 lakhs. And most of them belong to the semi-urban or rural areas, 68.0% were from that demographic profile. So this CFA was basically done to confirm the 7 factors that was extracted using EFA, whether that 7 latent construct hold fit the larger sample. It did. So these are the 7 factors that was extracted: campus infrastructure, academic quality, online presence, financial consideration, personal reasons, psychological impressions, social influences. And this is the model fit assessment. The model fit was excellent. Chi-square DF by DF come to 1.23, and SRMR was 0.032. CFI was 0.993, and P close came to about 0.025. These are all good. So all these standardized factor loadings were statistically significant. The range went 0.609 to 0.897. Composite reliability score was 0.84 to 0.913, which was ahead of the benchmark of 0.70. Average variant extracted was significant for all of 6 of the 7 constructs. They were above the threshold. For one particular construct, academic quality, the AVA was 0.479, but using the former latter criterion, if AVC exceeded less than 0.5, but composite gravity is high, in this case it was 0.913, then it's still considered to be adequate. So the 7-factor model was ultimately validated based on this. Discipline variety was established. All square root of AVs ranges from 0.692 to 0.762. And this is the actual output of with the factor loadings of those statements. And this is a response summary. Highest was 4.71 for program structure and content. Lowest was for society standing and prestige, 2.85. In summary, this is the hierarchy of factors that was established. Academic quality and financial consideration were top 2 in ranking, and online presence, social influences were bottom 2. What is also interesting is that for those who had an average mean score of high mean score also had lower standard deviation, and those which had lower mean score had higher standard deviation. That means students had more variability in their opinion regarding this. So academic quality and financial consideration were top 2 drivers. Online presence, social influences were the bottom 2 drivers. We'll modify this when we go through the FGDs and what happens over there. So this is the third phase, qualitative insight, where FGDs and person interviews are conducted. For FGDs, I contacted 6 to 8 participants in each of the groups. There are a total of 6 groups. Total number of students, participants were 44. They were all recruited from the same pool which had earlier taken on the quantitative survey. But I made sure that they belong from different academic and social background. So the participant diversity was ensured. For earlier alumni, only 2 universities conducted what they have the annual alumni meet within that period. So I could contact only those 2. And I had 39 alumni ultimately being contacted for FGDs of alumni. So for personal interviews, I had semi-structured personal interviews. This was conducted across all the admission and marketing teams across all 5 universities. So about 13 of such interviews were conducted. And this is the data analysis procedure. We had this open coding, hashing coding, sective coding. This was ultimately put into the transcript, ultimately put into R Studio and analyzed using tidy text for data, data preparation for that. CUSET Pro package was used with Sentimental, used to extract this, latent themes and all that. LD was used for that, for modeling this. So this is the major themes that was uncovered through student alumni FGDs. The first and foremost was placement was the dominant decision filter, and students were smart enough to understand what is the difference between placement assistant assurance and actual placement data. So they were smart enough to that. I'll elaborate on that a little later. Fees was not just interpreted in terms of affordability alone, rather it was taken as return on investment. And faculty quality was not just simply was judged by empirical relevance. In a sense, students also wanted to know whether faculty had relevant industrial exposure or not. That was again an important factor. Band was taken not as a prestige symbol; it was simply taken as an entry gate to better first job, landing of the first job. And campus factor and social influences were secondary factors. If the two universities matched on all other factors, they were used as tiebreakers. So students did not take this as the primary factors for selection of Agri Institute. This is through student and alumni FGDs. For admission marketing's PIs, three major themes came out. First was there was a real trade-off between visibility and verifiability. Most of the information which students actually care about cannot be given to them in a verifiable manner. So what did the marketing team do? They emphasized more on infrastructure as a proxy for better quality of institution. And the placement had a real dilemma because verifiable placement records was not shared institutionally because of their own internal constraints. But at the same time, they had to really emphasize on placement being the major driving factor, because ultimately all management courses are run on this placement factor. So this was a dilemma for them. They wanted to share the real input, but they were not because of institution restrictions. But placement then turned out to be a better trade-off. Finally, was they were functioning in a trust deficit crowded market where every university was claiming that they had the best faculty, they had the best campus, they had the best placements, but how to differentiate themselves with that formal advertising, they had no idea of doing that. So the major factor was that they had no idea how students actually verify this information, and that was one missing thing that came out from this. So this was the thematic topics that was extracted using the FGD transcript by the NLP method that I use. So placements and ROI, faculty, academics, brand reputation, campus facilities, and social and peer influence were the major themes that were extracted. Almost all themes had positive sentiments attached to them, highest being placement and ROI. And then I finally conducted what we call a chain analysis, which was to see if there are different student typologies. It extracted three different student typologies. First category was academic seekers. Those were directly concerned with academic quality, and they were the ones who actually comprehensively evaluated all the factors that were presented by the admission marketing team. For them, the key question was, will this institution help me grow and succeed? Second one was value optimizers. They looked at ultimately return on investment calculations. And for them, the key question was, is the return worth the investment? And the final one was prestige changers, those who looked at social validation and brand image and all that. For them, the key question was, what will the others think of this choice? So three typology of students extracted from this. This, I think, is missing. There is a diagram for this chain analysis. Oh, that's so I come back to the research questions and how they were answered. The first research question was, how do process students approach this decision-making process? And the key finding was that it is actually a family-mediated negotiation where students emphasize the aspirational values, parents emphasize the risk values, and ultimately it is a negotiation between parents and students with this decision-making. And the students acted as a rational agent. That means they actively verified the information that was provided by the institutions using their digital back channels. And yes, I'll just finish up. Back channels. And the second question was, which factors exert most significant influence? So I established a hierarchy of factors where academic quality and fashion consideration were the top ones. And students had a very utilitarian view of academic quality, how they interpret that. I'll come to that a little later. And the major finding was there is a real gap in understanding between the institution, how they project themselves, and how the stakeholders actually understand these gaps. So methodological contribution was that I developed a prototype of a MIC scale with 43 items and 7 latent constructs. So 5 recommendations. Academic quality is the strongest choice driver. So we should convert this into visible evidence, like faculty profiles should be emphasized. Curriculum should be actively mapped to the skill that is required by this, the industry. And employer-linked courses should be the main drivers. Financial considerations are also a top tier driver. So they should have expected career paths, more realistic calculation of ROI. Students should be given this. And the total cost of degree and scholarship should be plainly laid out before them. Students, of course, distrust official marketing claims. So we must realize the students have a way of verifying these using this alumni peer validation. They use different platforms to connect and actually verify this channel. So students have to find out this way of institutionalizing this direct method of communication. The limitation, obvious limitation was the alumni could not, CFA was not done on alumni survey because the response rate is very low. Second one is it is focused only on one particular state, which is Jharkhand, second limitation for that. And a cross-section design should have been, it is a cross-section design. A better design would have been a longitudinal design where students before admission and after the placement, that should have also been incorporated. So the major limitation was study. Future research, of course, this MIC scale is still a prototype that needs to be extensively validated across different states in India and across different management disciplines also. Longitudinal research would actually go into establishing the conceptual framework where beginning of this choice and after realization of the choice, this entire thing is covered. And then we should have comparative studies where Jharkhand, specifically social economic milieu, is compared with other states, especially the Bimaru state, whether it holds for that or not. And digital backchannel opens up a new era where social network analysis will actually give us an idea how students verify these claims and how they form their intention to take admissions over here. This is the scope of future research. I published 5 articles, 3 of them were Scopus Index, one is the ABDC B, and one is peer review, presented 2 paper conferences over here. And I finally gratefully acknowledge my research supervisor, Dr. Pavili Kumari, for all her guidance and intellectual mentorship. This is a brainchild of hers, basically. Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir for his constant encouragement, respected Registrar Sir for all his support that he gave, Dr. Runa Bhattacharya, the earlier PhD coordinator, Dr. Mesha Chauhan, the current PhD coordinator, the PhD cell people, all of them, examination department, and all faculty members, including Dr. Ashman and others who were there during my studies over there, those who helped in methodology and theory. And I also thank all the parts of university students, alumni for their time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I would request the examiners to put their valuable observations in front of us.
We'll have some discussion, some questions before
Yeah.
first phase. Because after his deliberations,
Okay.
the thesis will be end, the
Yes,
process will be end. Now you have taken 1069 students, they all are from BBA. Do you think the university represent only BBA?
No, this was done specifically for manual schools.
So what about the undergraduate students? Yours? See your title.
This can't be mentioned.
Only in management education.
Yes.
Only in management education.
That is why I
So
said
BBA is the only students. There is no scope for the MBA students.
that is why I said, so that is the limitation. That is why this is a
No, my thinking that whether BBA represent the whole university in management education.
no.
So that's what my question.
MBA is of course there. The reason is that
The MBA is there. Some other courses are all there in
Yes.
management,
yes,
right?
super specialties are there.
So,
yes,
so let us go to the relevance of your study.
yes.
So the relevance.
So this was an exercise. I developed only a prototype.
No, I am only relevance. Relevance of the study.
Yeah, the conceptual framework is more or less transferable. But if I claim that the scale is exactly transferable, it is not yet because this needs to be cross-validated.
No, right, now,
Yes.
you have shown 7 factors. Take. Now here you have measured the placement part. Have you measured the placement part?
Measuring in what sense?
You go to
Numbers.
you go to the your recommendations, and you have some dilemma that if placement is not there, students will not be able to join the placement, replacement. Have you measured that? Or on your own you have said that if placement is not there, student will not come.
This is based on the.
No, my question is not that. I am telling,
Yes.
you have not measured that, but you are recommending this, right? Where is the measurement?
Quantitative measurement is not there. Yes.
Qualitative?
Through FGDs, only students.
Also?
I will not put the responses that is there in the thesis.
No.
I will spell it. Yes.
You have sent the questionnaires to the students, the previous students in the classroom, right? And taken back the feedback, right? What kind of sampling it is?
The entire strategy was basically,
Just what kind of sampling it is. Sir is there, he'll clarify everything.
yes,
He'll clarify all your doubts.
in that.
I know this. I'm asking you just
In
to
that
know
sense,
whether you know it or no, because
yes,
tomorrow onwards, you'll start judging the PhD thesis. Tomorrow onwards,
This is one limitation.
Yes,
He's pointing out.
you are going to judge. We may call you as external examiner, we must get the valuable inputs from your end, right? Now, you have shown some new values, right? How you got it? In your findings?
The response.
Now, see,
Yes.
coming to psychological impressions, what are the questionnaires?
There were, I'll just show you, sir, psychology, advertisement, campaign, influence, that's
Psychological,
yes.
what are the questionnaires?
Detail.
What you have measured on that, on psychology of a students? You have said that the students will interact with their parents, not the peer groups, not the friends. On your statement, you categorically mentioned that the student will discuss with the parents, families. But what about parents? What are the social, what are other factors? Do you think you have validated it also? Now, while validating, let us see how you validate this. You validate this, na?
Yes.
How you validate this?
This was only done for students, sir. Parents were not.
Whatever you have done, I'm asking the questions. That will come later on.
Yes.
Whatever your work is there, I'm asking the questions.
Yes.
So how you did this?
This was, this validation was all through the, the results of this analysis.
You have shown some models, so that is okay for me, but I want your flow, how you did it.
Okay.
You have done something, na? Work something.
That MIC scale.
Where is
they
that?
have done.
Yes.
So he's asking regarding that also.
The scale was created in this 5 stages, as I showed earlier.
Now, who has created the scale?
This is the prototype, I'm not claiming.
No, that's what I'm asking you.
Yes.
Who has created the scale?
I did.
So how do you know
It's
that?
some base. He has done literature review.
Yes, the literature
From
was.
that you got the base.
Yes,
Then some refinement.
yes.
So you have that you have to justify.
Yes, sir, I showed it.
No, you have not shown that.
Sorry.
You have not shown that. Okay, thank you very much. If you want have some questions, then Ranjan sir will. किसको कुछ
I
बोलना तो
think,
बोलो.
Madam is there that side. Dr. Richa Chaudhary is there. You check. Is she there?
Richa ma'am, are you there, ma'am?
फोन कर दो.
If
Yes,
she will-
yes.
Ma'am, you can put forward your observation, ma'am.
Sure. So taking forward from sir's question only, what do you think, what modifications would be required to adapt the MIC scale for postgraduate management students?
So for MBA students specifically, ma'am, a couple of things change. Number one, they also want to look in terms of academic quality, how much faculty had consulting experience. That's one part. And what is the research output of faculties also? That is for the academic part. For placement part, they are more concerned about the profile of the companies that come for recruitment and whether they will give a salary uplift or not. In financial consideration, one more thing comes in picture where what is the opportunity cost of pursuing that education? Because most of those postgraduate students have this work already done. So what is the opportunity cost that also comes in? So these factors are which will modify the items in the scale, in my understanding.
Okay. And in my observation, in my comments also, in the weakness section, I wrote this, that you simply focused on the perceived determinants of institutional choice, right? But you did not consider various objective institutional indicators like placement records, accreditation status, or faculty quality, or enrollment data. So why you did not triangulate your, perceived your findings based on perception with these objective indicators?
Yes, so this was actually only for a development of prototype of the scale. This is a part of a future work. In fact, I've already done a bit of work in that. I formulated the model, which is a published research now, which is actually now tested only on synthetic data. As you're saying, that actual records of, just as sir was also mentioning, placement records, faculty profiles, all that, how do they actually impact the scale? I have done that as a future scope of the work, not in this present study. So I've already started working on that. One paper has already published based on that modeling and how these factors, respond to student selection of management stream. But in this study, no, it was not. It's a future scope for this work.
Okay. Okay. And you have suggested various, student typologies. So how do you think, can you explain its practical implications for how institutional administrators can apply these typologies in, strategizing their enrollment strategy?
Yes,
Yeah.
three major typologies are there. Those who are academic seekers, for them, the correct approach would be to actually emphasize faculty profiles and their experiences, especially if they have industry experiences on that. And they are the ones who are actually looking at whether the curriculum maps to the industry skill that is required by the industry. So that would be the proper way of convincing them why this particular program or this particular institute is a better one. The second major typology is those who are value optimizers. Their more focus is whether I get value out of this education in terms of financial return. So for them, installment options are there that should be emphasized, and the actual pay bands within which the placements took place. That is also what company should be able to reveal, but verifiable. Of course, I cannot simply go on making a claim. So that will probably convince those value optimizers whether I'll be getting return on my investment or not. The third typology was those who are prestige seekers. So for them, brand image, events that happens in the university, and the social influence is a major factor. So talking with alumni and the kind of students and the list of events or the kind of events that happen in the within the campus and the visibility of the campus itself should be the major talking points by the admission and marketing.
Okay. So I was just looking at your timeline. I mean, you started this research very early, I think in 2021, and now your Viva is in 2026. And given your sample size, I mean, why your study took this much of time?
Ma'am, this is because I'm also employed. I'm not a full-time scholar, so time was a major constraint for this study. And
some changes in the topic.
and then initially, when I started off, the initial topic was something else, but the final registration was that also took time. The final registration of topic also took time. So that was the initial period when I was delayed starting this research.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good work, no doubt in that. So my job was to ask certain questions, but I enjoyed reading your thesis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's all from me.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
What is new in your thesis, so that we'll take it? That we will patent.
The scale is patentable, sir. This is a prototype. I still claim it's not yet a scale. It needs to be cross-verified.
Running a scale.
I'm just saying this is prototype. This needs to be cross-verified. But I think this has a potential.
But whatever the factors you have given, you're not justifying that. Okay, sir.
At the outset, I congratulate you and also the guide for this good research work which Dr. Chaudhary also mentioned. So it's an exploratory study, and research is a continuous process. It will not end for you as you have already told that already you have started working. So limitations are there. It's part of the work. You have taken many qualitative things and you have quantified it. 5-point scale you have taken. As our honorable register was mentioning, that when you quantify qualitative things, sometimes subjectivity enters inside. Like placement. You have mentioned ROI. ROI is an is a accounting concept. A lot of things are there inside. But you are using that. How you will justify that calculating ROI, using that in your research?
This needs to be quantified very clearly. Yes, I use that terminology from accounting and finance to emphasize a point, but the actual calculation, actually, I'm not done. That's true. That's right.
Specifically in 3 areas, you have to develop. Already you have taken the literature review part, you have revised, added some international research inputs. In that part, you have to develop. And also regarding the contribution, we say original contribution, because some of your conclusions are general conclusions, which anyone can say that without doing research also some observations would be there. So in that area you have to develop he was referring to that whatever we find out, if we are able to patent it, the intellectual property right, then only you can say that, yes, it's my work. I have done it. You can try, you can prepare a chart regarding scale improvement you can do, and you can file. You can apply for a patent, but you have to do some improvements, not only for BBA, add MBA, refine or redesign the scale so that you can apply for management education. And also the quality knowledge addition, that part also you have to improve, because some general observations are there from the analysis. But the research methodology is very good. We are not questioning the methodology part. And sometimes as alumni, parents, they are also important stakeholders. So we have to take them into consideration for improving our research work. Many limitations have already been pointed out by Madam.
But it is a good piece of work.
Good piece of work, no doubt. There is always scope for improvement. And remember that already you have published some articles and you continue doing that. Continue revising the scale, continue adding the stakeholders, other stakeholders, continue enlarging the scope of the work. As you told, why not to take another state, some universities? It's not very difficult to take some universities, say from Odisha. It's nearby. You must have some friends there. Then those comparative studies will have better inferences from the research work. So this is a continuous process. I will not point out to focus on those limitations. So congratulations from my side. Yes.
Any questions? No.
Animesh, Karn, like good work. Yes, you mentioned with external examiner, your research methodology is pretty good because you did right from scale development, used your Prisma framework and all. Then you did all your exploratory, confirmatory, and then did things. Few suggestions for future work, like you captured the personal demographic data that was not analyzed anywhere. Probably the volume of the data or volume of the thesis might not be helping you out. That could be one of the reasons why you might have skipped. But since you got the data with you, you had some personal data, I mean demographic data, which could be analyzed with the constructs, whatever you have found out. And you can find out based on location. You mentioned the semi-urban, urban, something like that, right? So you can check how it is differing. So that will give some good insight comparing the personal with the constructs. That is one. Second is like you did Frontal Larker. So since in recent times, other than Frontal Larker, one more method is there. Are you aware of it?
Yes.
Okay. HTMT.
HT, yes, it is.
Right? Heterotype monotype. So nowadays, Frontal Larker is not reported to a larger extent because HTMT has overtaken. Third, for your advancement, since analysis was done hands-on or you got some help from any of your friends or something, we are done. So in that case, since you have done your analysis for yourself, you might be using R, SPSS and all. You have used R for all the analysis, right? So you just, in for your future work for papers, you just try to find out how multi-group analysis can be done, MGA, right? So this multi-group analysis will give you some better insight. So depending upon the different categories, now, how the model is getting different. So few more demographic might have been captured, which you can think of. Since you are a teaching profession, like you can extend this work also. That will also help you out, right? So these are few observations. The rest, I leave it to the external, sir.
Thank you, Rajkumar sir, for your feedback. Now, I would request the examiners to declare.
Already we have congratulated the scholar and also the guide. It's a good research work. So we recommend for the taking into consideration the reports as well as your performance in the Viva Voce test. I recommend from my side for the award of his.
Richa ma'am, can you please switch on your camera for a while, ma'am?
Photograph will be taken. Photograph.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, thank you.
Madam, your final comment before we.
Yes, I recommend the thesis be
Ma'am, you are muted.
Muted. Muted.
Please unmute. Now it's.
Yes, I recommend the thesis be considered for the award of the PhD degree. Congratulations, Animesh, and congratulations to the supervisor as well.
Thank you, madam. On the basis of the recommendation by both the external examiner, Mr. Animesh Karn is awarded with the PhD degree
Thank you, sir.
in management.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Please have a question.
So on behalf of ICFA University Jharkhand, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Richa ma'am, who joined us in such a short notice. Ma'am, we are really sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you, Ranjan sir, for coming all the way from Bhubaneswar.
Understood.
Your speech really added more to our knowledge.
In the photograph,
Madam is there.
photos
Madam
should come. You take the. You check whether madam is coming or not online.
केंद्र जी मैडम आ रहा है ना फोटो में है ना ठीक है
ऊपर ऊपर हाँ टीवी में
Yeah.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Listen.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, madam.
I would like to congratulate the supervisor, Dr. Pallavi Kumari ma'am, and also the scholar for the wonderful work. Thank you so much, sir, for your.
Ma'am, we are winding up the meeting.